Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? Hello, all my friends. We have missed you guys. Hope everyone had did great through the holidays and had a brought in a new year, 2024. We are so excited to be here tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Carol, and we are live streaming from the attic of Piedmont Trails. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. Our topic tonight is going to be about the Great Wagon Road map that was recently released from the Great Wagon Road Project last month in December of 2023. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk just a few minutes about the map and what the map represents, and a little bit about the Great Wagon Road. And then the rest of the live stream is about all of you guys, your questions, your answers, your comments, your suggestions. It's about a live discussion between all of you amongst yourselves and with me included. I'll do the very best that I can to answer all of your questions. I've got a lot of paperwork here. I've also got access to my own personal or one of my own personal maps um, on my computer. So I'm hoping that that will all work well with the live streaming tonight. So I've got access to a lot of material. Um, but yeah, we are really excited to be back. I hope everyone is doing great. So say hi to me. Let me know that you're here, and we'll go ahead and get this started. And like I said, I just want to talk just a few minutes about the Great Wagon Road and about the map, and I want to give a short version of the original route. Okay, I want to share that with all of you, and then we'll take questions and get to your comments. Because I tell you, since I'll just be honest with you guys, ever since we released this map in December, emails have been nonstop. People who could get in touch with me personally has been nonstop, wanting to know all kinds of questions about various different other roads too, not just the Great Wagon Road. So it's been phenomenal. It's been a fantastic journey, and I tell you, personally, I've loved every single minute of it. Wouldn't change a thing. There's been ups and downs all throughout, but it's not. It hasn't changed. I wouldn't change a thing on it. Let me get to a few. A few of you are saying hi to me, and I saw one question. Where can I see a copy of this map from Dale? Dale, if you'll go to PiedmontTrails.com, that's PiedmontTrails.com, and then look. I think it's the third article. As soon as that front home page comes up, and it says the Great Wagon Road map, you can find it right there. And everybody's saying hi. I missed you guys so much. I hope everyone's doing good. Jeff's here. Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. Nancy. Melissa from New York. Wow. Bob. Steve. Hey, everybody. Hello. Steve from Tennessee. Kim is here. Hi, Kim. Hope your journey to the past has been going great. Okay, you guys. All right, I'm going to just talk just a few minutes about the Great Wagon Road, and then I'm going to give you a brief description of the original route. Traveling from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Salisbury, North Carolina, the Great Wagon Road was the first. It was the first in a long line of migration trails. It was the first one. It was the first Western road that carried wagons over a distance of nearly 500 miles. During its beginning, only two wagon roads existed. Only two wagon roads existed that crossed over into other colonies, both of which were only capable of carrying wagons for a limited time, or a limited length of mileage. And that was the Trader's Path and the King's Highway. The Great Wagon Road was the first that carried into multiple colonies, several colonies. It's important for us to remember that, because it's not only important for us to remember today, but it meant a whole new life for the families that lived during the 18th century when all of this was going on. Just imagine yourself being excited and hearing about, oh, there's a new road. And this road, we can stay on this road and it'll take us all the way to this place and hundreds of miles away. It had to have been a very exciting time for these families. So it's not only important for us today, it was also very important to all the families during that time. So from Lancaster to Salisbury, the original route has been our main focus with the Great Wagon Road Project. We have corresponded with many, many people who have held many, many years of research along this road. Um, Lots of people. I can name several that have been researching this road almost half their lives. It's an extraordinary journey, and we have corresponded with a great many of them, and there are several who we have committed our entire evidence to. We've let them view it, we've let them go over it, and there were several that were really amazed. Few of them were really shocked, and but almost all of them, the majority, totally agreed with us, 110%, that we were right on it, right on it. So we encourage everyone, I always encourage everyone to share their opinions about the Great Wagon Road, and we want to encourage you to research for the truth. The Great Wagon Road deserves that above everything else. It deserves the truth and our respect for what it represented and what it stands for today. Now, over the years, several opinions about the Great Wagon Road has been shared in various maps, videos, books, magazine articles, all kinds of formats. And a lot of these have cast a dark shadow over the truth. And we, I was telling some of the other members the other day through an email that we have literally changed history with the Great Wagon Road, and and our discovery of it. It makes you humble. It does. It makes you humble and just realize, you know, how small and insignificant we are compared to things of the past that occurred with our ancestors. And Great Wagon Road is just one of those. Okay, here we go. So the original route began in the 1720 decade. 1720. It began as a wagon road. In order to be classified as a road in colonial times, it had to accommodate a wagon. If it didn't accommodate a wagon, it wasn't considered as a road during the colonial era. So the Great Wagon Road became a road in 1720 decade. And it traveled from Pennsylvania into Maryland. Now, you know, Pennsylvania and Maryland had a big dispute for many, many years about their border. Well, you'll have to research to learn more about that. We're not going to go into depth about that tonight. But I'm just specifying that the road was a wagon road traveling from Pennsylvania to Maryland. By the 1730 decade, the road extended deep into Virginia. We recently did an article that we published on Piedmont Trails explaining that and proving that very thing of how during the 1730s a group of families had traveled into Virginia, and we followed their steps and gave proof of how they traveled and where they ended up. By the 1740 decade, the road extended to North Carolina at the Traders Ford near Salisbury. After 1750, alternate routes appeared, but the project's main goal was to find and prove the original route prior to 1750, and I feel 100% that we completed that. The map that we released in December demonstrates our research of the original route dating before 1750. After 1750, shootouts appear along the main road. What are shootouts? Well, shootouts are little shortcuts or other little roads that connect to the Great Wagon Road. And these appeared everywhere. Now, of course, majority of these new roads joined the Great Wagon Road, and why wouldn't they? I mean, why wouldn't they want to join the Great Wagon Road? That would only be common sense. You want to join the main thoroughfare, and then these other little routes would extend out to areas that have not been settled yet. Land was one of your number one things enticing all of these families to travel. So, of course, all these shootouts are going to connect to the Great Wagon Road in the beginning years. So what's important is the full understanding of the original route and the connections to these other roads. Now, the description that I'm going to give shares the Great Wagon Road route from Pennsylvania to North Carolina before 1750. And I think I mentioned a few counties in here. If I do mention a county, it's in a present day form, not as a county back in the 18th century. Okay, from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to the Susquehanna River, crossing by Harris Ferry near Harrisburg, traveling through Carlisle, Shippensburg, and Chambersburg, crossed into Maryland, just west of Waynesboro, with the mountains on their left. Interior of Maryland to Sharpsburg, crossing the Potomac River at the Pack Horse Ford. Entering Shepherdstown, West Virginia to the Virginia line west of Swimley. Following through Winchester, Virginia to Edinburgh, southwest position to Stanton, on south to Lexington, turning more westerly and ending in Roanoke, and then turning even more westerly and heading towards Christiansburg, Virginia. Once in Christiansburg, Virginia, takes a more southerly direction to Douglasburg and reaches Paul's Creek in Carroll County, Virginia. Enters North Carolina west of Pilot Mountain to Mulberry in Wilkes County. Travels through Yadkin County, present-day Yadkin County, to Mocksville. Travels a little bit west of present-day Mocksville and ending at Salisbury. Now, before you guys get really shocked over that, okay. Before I begin answering your questions, let me mention a few things. Roads that later connected to the Great Wagon Road does not mean that they were part of the original route. Okay? Roads that later connected to the Great Wagon Road does not mean that they were part of the original route. They were separate roads. Just like the Great Wagon Road intersecting into the Trader's Path at Salisbury. We said over a year ago that the Great Wagon Road ended in North Carolina. Well, it intersected into the Trader's Path. Just like that, as the Great Wagon Road intersected at that section, the Great Wagon Road ended. That's the same with these other roads. People seem to get confused by this, but it's not that hard to understand. It's new roads are constantly emerging, especially throughout the mid 18th century through the early 19th century, as people are traveling. And a prime example of this is what we call the Old York Road. There was a road that extended from York, Pennsylvania, traveled approximately through Gettysburg, and it actually joined into the Great Wagon Road. That's a separate road. But from York to where it joins the Great Wagon Road, that's separate. Then you have other roads that extended from Roanoke going in through Boone's Mill, traveling towards Mayo River, entering into Stokes County. We originally were always taught that, hey, that was the route of the Great Wagon Road. It wasn't. That was a new road. That road that extended from Roanoke, traveling in that direction, ending up at the Mayo River, didn't even exist in 1750, 1749. It wasn't there. Then you've got other roads like the Carolina Road, extending, traveling through Culpeper, Virginia. That road didn't exist in 1750. Okay. Now I'm going to answer your questions. So y'all can just throw them at me. I'll do my very best. Let me say hey, finish saying hey to everyone on here. Jeff, I said, hey, you okay? From Southern Indiana. Welcome, Beverly. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to scroll back up, make sure I didn't miss anyone. Melissa, yep. Dale, I hope you found that copy of the map. Jeff says, good evening from near the Great Wagon Road in Virginia. Good evening, Jeff. Okay. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. You notice I put on that map, I put a landmark on there, and it was Pilot Mountain. And I knew that that would be, I was thinking, what landmark can I put to demonstrate how we have discovered the road, how the original route traveled? And I said, the Pilot Mountain would be perfect, because that was the exact thing that the families used to pinpoint and eyesight their way to, letting them know how much further they needed to go. The Pilot Mountain was a landmark for them. Um, Jan asked a very good question. How did people hear about the road, and information did they know about where they were going? Word of mouth. I was told a long time ago the best advertisement in is which is actually free because it's word of mouth from one person to the next, and it's true. And the same thing works back in the 18th century. You had families who were interested or heard from another person about the road and how it traveled, and or about how other families had already traveled the road and were sending letters or maybe correspondence back. This is how people mainly found out about it. Um, and there were so many people that were involved. This road was a super major highway. I can't stress that enough on how many people actually traveled this road. Um, it was just word of mouth is how they actually heard about it. Even churches would tell the congregations, and whole entire congregations would pack up and leave and travel this road. Very popular. All right, you guys, let me scroll back up here. So I hope that answered your question, Jan. Okay, Dale says you make it sound like roads had official names in the colonial period. They did not. My research shows that roads had local names, but nothing that would be generally recognized. That is absolutely correct. And no, we're not trying to insinuate that roads have a official name. When you research roads, you can't. You have to give them a name, um, or you got to have some type of way to label them so that you can keep them completely separate from one from the other. Prime example as the road that I just discussed earlier about York, leaving from York, Pennsylvania. We named that or labeled that the Old York Road. It's not saying that that's the actual road. The road didn't actually have a name. It probably, what most people known it for was to travel to that Great Wagon Road, to that great road. But you're absolutely right, Dale. Colonial roads did not have names. Um, Jim, does the road go through Kingsport, Tennessee? No, that's another road that goes through Kingsport, and it dates much later. Back that road would be in 1790 decade. If you're referring to the Great Wilderness Road, that's a whole separate little discussion right there. Um, that Great Wilderness Road greatly changed all through the years. Um, yeah, Kingsport is a story in itself. But no, the Great Wagon Road did not travel that way to Kingsport. Okay, Dale says, great referred to a surface, wagon referred to a width. Not necessarily. Mm-mm, not necessarily. Kim says, I have found county records from 1721 road would they have traveled going west to the Piedmont of North Carolina. Most likely, in that time frame from 1721 would be Thigpen's Trace. They would have joined into it from that decade, from 1720. You know, Thigpen's Trace or Trader's Path has been a route since 1708, 1709. So that would have been your main route across North Carolina. Juliana, is there somewhere where it's written out where the road goes the way you described it? No, not as of this point. This is actually our first time in giving the whole brief description from point A to point B where it ended. The map shows you, we released that in December. I think it was around the first week of December. And that was the first thing that we came out with. And then tonight we gave it as verbal from point A to point B. But no, there is no place that it is written as of yet. Coming up, it'll be up soon. And Susan says, how far west of Pilot Mountain? Oh, how far west? Okay, hang on, Susan. Let me see if I can go to my map. It's not very far. Just east of Low Gap is, if you're familiar with North Carolina, is east of Low Gap, between Low Gap and Pilot Mountain. Traveled west of it. Okay. Okay, Dale says, I have not found a detailed map on that site. I do have maps I have created of the colonial roads of Carolina and would love to compare the details. Anytime, Dale, you can contact us through here on the channel, or you can email me directly at carol@piedmonttrails.com, or email the site at contact@piedmonttrails.com. Either way, be happy to correspond with you. Steve says, hi. Fifth great grandfather was in 1765 when he cut down through Maryland from Frederick to Leesburg. In 1765, your most popular route during that time was the Carolina Road. It was the Carolina Road. Everybody switched from the Great Wagon Road to the Carolina Road because of its much better terrain. The Great Wagon Road was a horrible road to travel down. So coming from that area in 1765, Steve, I would encourage you to research further into the Carolina Road, and then look along that area to see if you can find records and prove that your ancestors traveled that route. Listen, I tell people all the time, you can prove what route your ancestors traveled and what time period. It's possible. I've done it. My friends have done it. You can do it. I've got confidence in all of you all. You can do it. Just dig deep for the records. Kay says, hello, Kay. How are you? Juliana, can you repeat the route before ending the stream? It went fast, but would love to hear it. Sure, no problem. I can do that right now. And sometimes I tend to talk a little fast. So, yes, I have no problem with that. Okay, you ready? All right, here we go. From Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Susquehanna River, crossing by Harris Ferry near Harrisburg, traveling through Carlisle, Shippensburg, and Chambersburg, crossed into Maryland just west of Waynesboro with the mountains on their left. Interior of Maryland to Sharpsburg, crossing the Potomac River at the Pack Horse Ford. Shepherdstown, West Virginia to the Virginia line west of Swimley. Onward to Winchester, Virginia to Edinburgh, southwest position to Stanton and to Lexington, turning more west towards Roanoke, and then turning even more west to Christiansburg, then turning to a southwest direction to Douglasburg and reaching Pauls Creek in Carroll County, Virginia. Enters North Carolina west of Pilot Mountain to Mulberry, Wilkes County, through Yadkin County, to Mocksville, and then ending at Salisbury, North Carolina, at the Traders Ford. Okay. Bob says, how do I find evidence of my ancestors' original travel on the road? Various records. They stopped along the way. It depends on the time frame. Let me see. You say more here. All I know is they immigrated in 1755 and appeared in Rockbridge County, 1768. James McCammell and son Solomon McCammell. One thing to always remember, you guys, they always traveled in groups. They never traveled alone. So if you can pinpoint some of their neighbors and where they settled, okay, and pick out some of them too to research and add that to your list when you're researching your own family. Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of times their neighbors traveled with them to the area where they arrived and they are now living. Then trace it back, go back, and pinpoint and see if you can find out their original departure. Where did they originally leave from? Was it in Pennsylvania, or did they originally arrive in Virginia? You've got to figure that out too. You can do that. You can do it. Okay, Kim says, can you spell that, please? Thick pens trace. I can do better than that. I can type it out. And you did it, and Kim, you had it spelled correctly. There you go. Thick pens trace. Okay. And Jan says, did the road lead to the Watauga settlement? This is important. From Chambersburg, Virginia, you had another road, okay, that led going west to that area, to the New River and Watauga settlement. It was not the Great Wagon Road. It was a road that shot out from the Great Wagon Road, okay? But it did join in with the Great Wagon Road. But it was a separate road that went all the way to New River and Watauga settlement. Jeff says, can you talk about Amsterdam, Virginia? And what would you like to know about Amsterdam, Virginia? Settled about 1746? Let me know. Jim says, what did these roads look like? Could you go days without seeing anyone? That depends on the time frame in which you've traveled and where you're at. How do I give you an example of that? Okay, let's say that you're a family traveling from Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania, and it's 1737. All right, you're going to see people all along the road, all the way through Pennsylvania, through until you reach the Potomac River. You're going to see various businesses and people. It's not going to get too remote in that time frame until you reach Virginia and present day West Virginia, and then it's going to get more spottier as you travel. Um, I hope that explains it. Over time, the road grows and expands, and businesses and settlements grow along the road. So later, as the time period goes, then it wouldn't you would see people all the time, especially when there was people coming back and forth driving herds on the road. It was a major highway, so there were times when wagons didn't have enough room to pull over to have other wagons to go past them. So I hope that explains your answers your question. Jean said, "Well, hey, Jean, how you doing? I've not heard from you in a while. What was location of the road through the mountains before reaching Pilot Mountain? It traveled through Chambersburg, and then it turned south into Douglasburg, Virginia, and traveled that way. It reached Paul's Creek, Flower Gap. Flower Gap was a major route that many of the miners used to transport goods into the area between North Carolina and Virginia. Well known road. This was the Great Wagon Road. Um, Many families used this in coming into North Carolina who settled into present day Rowan County, first and second, third, and fourth creeks. Those settlements, Davidson settlement, Bryan settlement, Irish settlement, they all settled west of the Yadkin River, and that's how they entered into North Carolina. It wasn't until later when other families came across and came in and actually crossed the Yadkin River and into those western areas. Um, did the roads have cut trees as a surface to travel on, like similar roads up in upstate New York? They used several tactics depending on the season. Most people traveled in late fall or early autumn, and to try to beat the major part of winter, and then have their settlement, their little house or whatever, or shelter constructed by then. That was the most popular time when people traveled. But as far as the road surface, there were different techniques used during certain areas of the road because it was horrible. This was a horrible road to travel, especially if it was rainy. It'd been raining for a week or longer. It was just treacherous. It was very dangerous. So, is it possible that cut trees would have been used as a surface? Very possible, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Trees were often cut to um, hold or keep wagons from going downhill too fast. They would be cut and stuck into the spokes of the wheels in the rear or the front, and to keep those back wheels locked so that the wagons could only go so fast going down a steep hill. Yeah, so I would say yes, Susan. They were. Juliana, I know this road follows the Appalachians north and south, but for the roads that offshoot this one, do you know any names off the top of your head that cross the current path of the Appalachian Trail? No, I don't. And I get asked that a lot. You would think how the Native Americans use trails. They always use the ridge lines. And I have found in history of studying roads where I have found them along the ridge lines. If you go back into Governor Spotswood's correspondence. He tells you exactly about roads that are right on the ridge lines of the mountains there in Virginia. But as far as on the Appalachian Trail, I have not. I've not been, and to be honest with you, I've not really looked into it that much either on that. It would be fun to do that, to see if I could find one that would relate to that. Would you know if it went through Rocky Mount, Virginia, near Pig River? That's a different road. And we can thank Mr. Bird for his interpretation on Pig River through that area, um, and his land of Eden. Um, and we can also thank Jefferson and Fry for their famous little map that detailed, and it was made after 1750, that showed it going through that area too. But no, that would be part of another road. Cassandra says, was Great Wagon Road ending in Salisbury District, Hillsboro, going along or near the Catawba River settlements? There is a shootout that extends out from the Great Wagon Road that heads over towards the western counties, like where people living in Burke County, Lincoln County, and in that area along the Catawba River, which was originally part of a trading route that extended over to the Cherokee to the west and then to the south of the Catawbas. Um, the one that extended to the Cherokee was part of the Kiowee Trail that actually traveled all the way into South Carolina, traveling that way. But yeah, it was a shootout. The Great Wagon Road connected to it by a shootout. Dale says corduroy roads, trees laid crosswise with dirt to smooth them was a 19th century idea, and often done by toll road companies. That is correct. And they also charged a fee. And the Carolina Road was a toll road, which is why people stopped using it and reverted back to the Great Wagon Road years later. And plank roads were the plank roads were used often, not just in North Carolina. They were used in all states during the 19th century, and they were a bad investment. A lot of people lost a lot of money through the plank road corporations. Steve says South Carolina Road is also James Monroe Route 15. Now, in South Carolina, the Great Wagon Road doesn't travel through there. It's the Trader's Path or Thigpen's Trace. That's your road that travels through South Carolina. Susan says, thank you, Dale. History that I heard about was also called Military Road in the lower section of the Adirondacks. And I didn't get that part. Okay, good. Excellent, everybody. Excellent. Okay, I think I got everybody's questions. Good. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. We're going to have a couple of articles coming out in the end of this month, end of next month, February. We're already at the end of this month. That will go into more detail about some of the evidence and that we have came across for the Great Wagon Road, and about some of the families that we were able to prove that actually used this route coming into North Carolina. Things greatly changed after 1753, 54, and 55 in how people came back and forth and entered into North Carolina and into Virginia, and how people were migrating. It greatly changed during those years. During the French and Indian War, everything changed. New forts were being constructed, new roads were being constructed almost daily. And so we're going to have some more on that as well coming out next month. Okay. All right. So let me get to my ending notes here. And again, I want to thank you all for joining me so much. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. This marks our 7th year of Piedmont Trails, and it's our 5th year with the Great Wagon Road Project. And we appreciate all of your opinions and your comments. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you like what we're doing and us sharing our journey to the past with you, please like and subscribe on the channel and let us know. We have a lot going on this year, and as we journey to the past, we want to share all of it with all of you. Our next live stream, it will be on February the 25th. That's on a Sunday. That's February the 25th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And no more questions are there. So until then, enjoy your journey to the past, and may God bless.